exhibit a gender identity that is different from the performer's gender assigned at birth, using clothing, makeup, and or other accessories that are traditionally worn by members of and are meant to exaggerate the gender identity of the person's opposite sex. That is just a long-winded way of making not trans people illegal, but any outward expression of trans identity legal. Over the last 6 months, we have seen a real uptick of anti-trans, anti-LGBT, a lot of very sussy laws, and a lot of very I think a lot of laws being passed on the culture war. So, and with that, I think, like, what was the number? It was like hundreds, wasn't it? Let's see, laws. Let's see, 2022. Let's see, nearly 240 were filed. Now, obviously, that's not everything that gets through, but that should give you an idea as to where legislators' heads are at in terms of, where their priorities are and kind of where they're thinking their voters are. And I guess apparently in Arkansas, they are attempting to reclassify drag shows as adult-oriented businesses. And which obviously this is kind of this is going to be a continuation of their kind of war on drag shows, because think of the children. So we haven't really watched a lot of Tim Pool here, so I feel like this is gonna be loud, so let me turn this down for a second. So yeah, let's gotta check in to see what's going on. Why am I yawning so often? Golly. Anyway,
I'm not gonna leave you hanging, my friends. I can't wrap up this day's segments without some good news. Everything we hear, it's always bad. Things are getting worse. Things are burning down. The president's insane. People are morbidly obese. But I've got some,
What was that? Tim, are you okay? Actually, here, this is what I'm gonna do. We're gonna do 1.25. I want to hear that list again of how the world is burning down.
Up this day's segments without some good news.
Okay.
Everything we hear, it's always bad. Things are getting worse. Things are burning down. The president.
Okay, what's burning down right now? You can't you can't say I don't want to hear Kenosha, no nonsense.
It's insane. People.
Oh, the president's insane. Yes. Is he insane, or is he just really old? Come on now. Come on now.
People are morbidly obese.
Yeah, that's true. There are people in 2023 who are morbidly obese. That is true. There were people who were morbidly obese in the 1990s and in the 80s and probably in the 70s. It's always been people like that. It's just kind of a thing that happens. I don't see how that's okay.
But I've got some.
I just thought about this. Does he read news from his own news site? Is that what Tim Pool? Is that what this is? I kind of I was glancing at this and I was like, is this his header? But no, this is his website. He just writes his own articles, or at least his website writes articles that. Wow, man, I've heard of an echo. I've heard of echo chambers, but this is impressive. This is I built the echo chamber. This is echo chamber made by Tim Pool for Tim Pool. Jesus.
Positivity, a white pill to send your way. Arkansas
white
bill
pills now
would formally classify drag performances as adult-oriented businesses and ban children from attending. Well, all right.
Cool.
That's good news. You know, we were recently talking to some activists here.
I love anti-freedom.
If only we had legislation behind us, the police could go in and start shutting these things down and
it's not like you didn't have 240 filed bills. Calm down. Chill out.
Arresting these people. Well, to be completely honest.
Now, the big question is, arrest them for what? So this is also the thing. You have to ask yourself, they're saying if only we could have the police go in and arrest them, right? But the question then needs to be asked, for what? Is there nudity? How much you want to bet there's no nudity at all in either of these censored pictures? And not only that, do you think both of these are from child-oriented drag shows? Are they? Is that left picture, which, by the way, if that's an outfit of a if that's an outfit, actually, even better. Let me. Oh, my mouse is dead for a second. Wake up. I kind of want us all to kind of keep this in mind. This is TVP. This TVPG network television. Now, whether that photo is censored or not, does this outfit look that much different from this? Is this suddenly not okay? I find it's always interesting to me that there are these guys like Tim Pool who seem to get really, really upset about drag shows, about non-nudity. Meanwhile, the entire sport of professional wrestling exists, where not only are women performing in revealing clothing, men are performing in revealing clothing. Men are sometimes wearing flamboyant outfits. It is rather not just small-minded, but shows a real lack of perspective on Tim Pool as a person. That he has never once, he would see this picture here, and I would beg to ask what the difference is between like what people are wearing, how much skin is revealed. Somehow Tim wouldn't find an issue with this, even though we're basically describing the exact same thing. It's really fucking weird. It's very strange. Like, it's performance art. It's performance art that can or cannot be appropriate for children. In this case, wrestling, there are things called death matches. They which all fit into pro wrestling, but some forms are appropriate for children, and some forms aren't. Drag shows aren't really much different. You can absolutely, and we've seen, and I'm sure you've seen footage of a drag show being shown on TV that seemed rather benign. We watched one where somebody just sat in a chair and read a book. But somehow, that is controversial to these people. Somehow, it bothers them in some way. I don't get it. I don't get it whatsoever.
I don't think that will happen. I think the cops are weak, scared, and pathetic. Wow. I think that when I hear like a skateboarder saying something like, "I'm too scared to speak up," what do you think a cop is saying? Cops like, I know it's illegal, I know it's wrong, but I ain't doing anything about it. And that was kind of the point. The point was,
well, the reason why cops don't really mess with skaters a lot of times is mainly because you seem like an asshole, A. But also, it's really not like, skateboarding does not have a negative impact on society or a community any more than biking would. So, there's a reason why the cops aren't really worried about it. And it's also the reason why cops don't arrest people at drag shows. Because nobody is forcing anybody who doesn't want to be there to be at a drag show. If you don't want to participate, if you don't want your child to participate, if you don't think a child-oriented drag show is possible, then don't take your kids to one. That's fine. Nobody's going to force you. But there are parents who have differences of opinion, who have differences of standards, and have decided, yeah, this is fine. Like, you know, my kids are fine seeing people in costumes. It's not the biggest deal in the world.
With the defund the police and all the stuff we saw was to terrify police.
Defund the police didn't happen.
Into being in a position where they will never enforce the law unless it's against you. I mean, think about it. There was that BL.
Yeah, think about it. Nobody who's ever gotten arrested since 2019 has been no liberal has ever been arrested since 2019. Remember that.
Protest where the guy had a shotgun. They're outside his house. This group had previously set fire to another house. He brandishes a shotgun.
Having trouble there.
And they call the police. The police show up, and BLM cheers for the cops. Why didn't the cops shut down the stalking and assault and all that stuff? Because they're scared of the mob. And I warned y'all that would happen. I said sooner or later, the woke mob will come to your house.
You mean like how they were scared of the mob at January 6th too? Do you think he believes that for January 6th? Probably doesn't, right?
They will scream and they will demand your arrest. And the police will be like, look, it is easier for us to arrest you than it is for us to deal with a mob. And so whether innocent or guilty, you're getting arrested. But I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. No, we've got some...
This is weird. Like, this is so much fear baiting. Tim, are you okay? You seem really, really scared right now. And I'm not sure why. You've got a katana on your wall, my man. You'll be fine. Beat the mob down with your katana and your guitar over here. Like, what are you so... Like, look, at the end of the day, this is what Tim Pool's job is. Tim Pool's job is to make you scared. That's what his job is. His job is to terrify you, is to make you fear somebody, the person in front of you, in traffic with a pride flag or with a progressive flag. You're supposed to feel scared after that, sitting behind that person in traffic. That's what Tim Pool's entire job is.
Good news here. Take this out from timcast.com. They say,
from timcast.com,
Arkansas
my
bill
website.
seeks to formally classify drag performances as adult-oriented business and ban children from attending them. The legislation, Senate Bill 4.3, would also place limitations on where the shows could take place. This is good news. Maybe I should zoom in a little bit, get that text a little bit bigger for y'all. The bill adds the controversial shows to the description of adult-oriented businesses, which also lists an adult arcade, an adult bookstore or video store, an adult cabaret, an adult live entertainment establishment, an adult motion picture theater, an adult theater, a massage establishment that offers adult services, an escort agency, or nude model studio. Well, all right.
I want to read this really quickly. Sponsored exhibits a gender. Oh, what is this? The bill adds the controversial shows to the description of adult-oriented businesses. So understand that he mentioned earlier people who thought to themselves, boy, I wish we could just send the police in and the police would just arrest these people who are participating in a legal form of entertainment. And what we're seeing with this bill in Arkansas is an attempt by the legislature to take away the rights of people in its constituency to attend perfectly legal drag shows. They are not addressing any harm. They're simply redrawing the lines for what is legal. So this is a perfect example of minority rule. That's what this is. This is minority rule. This is authoritarian. This is homophobic, transphobic, any of the other phobics. Like, that's all this is. This is not to protect people, to do X, Y, or Z, to cut down on this damage being done. Because if there was harm being committed at these shows, Tim Pool would have an article about it. If there was harm being committed at these shows, Fox News would have covered it. If there was harm being created through these performances, I'm sure Matt Walsh would be on the beat. But there's not. The harm that they speak about every single time is theoretical. Every single time. It's theoretical. Because to them, as I mentioned earlier, there's no such thing as a drag show that can be appropriate for children. The same way, not so long ago, people believed, and to this day they still really believe it, that there's no way for parents to parent properly while being gay. These are mutually exclusive distinctions. It's also why they opened this article mentioning the controversy around drag shows and not the harm created. You see, anything can be controversial. Controversy is fine as far as I'm concerned. It's when there's actual measurable harm being created, to which there isn't. They'll only point to, don't you think this is bad? Don't you think this? What if this? We don't have to deal with we don't have to deal in what ifs, in don't you thinks. Show me some fucking data. Show me that this is more than you just being worried and pulling any excuse out of your ass to limit the ability for people to express themselves. Because here's the difference. Adult arcade. You know what they're most likely talking about? Barcades, which would be primarily bars. Kids aren't allowed into bars. We understand that. Adult bookstores. Most likely, we're talking about like sex shops, specific places that sell products that are not to be consumed by people under the age of 18. Same goes for video stores. Cabarets, same exact thing. It is strip club light. That is adult live entertainment establishment. Again, also, we're talking about a strip club. Adult motion picture theater. Adult theater. These are, assuming that these exist, I don't think like porn theaters exist anymore. But if they did, that's what we'd be talking about. Massage establishment that offers adult services. Now, I'm not sure. I did not realize that was something that was legal. But I guess maybe. Either way, right. I don't know about that one. And an escort agency, again, I didn't realize that. I mean, you know, I'm not sure how much of that sex work is legalized. Or nude model studio. Again, nudity. We gatekeep nudity behind, you know, becoming 18 years of age. So what are we, again, all of the things that they've listed on here are things that we've decided there's a legal threshold to attain some of these because they create harm for children after a certain, you know, if they're consuming this sort of stuff at a certain age. We don't have that for gay people existing, for trans people existing, for queer people being around children. So, you know, there's a reason why the Don't Say Gay bill is labeled the way it is. And it's because you want to make it so that being queer around kids in and of itself is the damage, is what law is being broken.
Sponsored by Arkansas Senator Gary Stubefield and Rep. Mary Bentley. The legislation also describes drag performances as when...
Also, you can bet that this most likely, I would be surprised if this passed, and I would not be surprised if these people filed this for the simple, just to kind of gain some clout and gain some notoriety, just to kind of pump up their numbers with their base.
One or more performers exhibits a gender identity that is different from the performer's gender assigned at birth using clothing...
Ooh, okay, so, let's get this clear. They're defining drag as just being transgender. That's what they're defining it as. So, like, you know, when we talk about why drag shows are so linked to trans folks, this is kind of why. Mainly because, this is the sort of you know, at the end of the day, this is how you tie these two things together. This is why they're tied together so much.
Makeup or other accessories that are traditionally worn by members of and are meant to exaggerate the gender identity of the performer's opposite sex.
So, again, so this is also something you would have to tell me. First of all, as a free red-blooded American, goddammit, why am I not allowed to wear whatever clothing or makeup or other accessories? I thought this was a free country. I thought we lived in a free America. But apparently, I'm not allowed to wear certain clothing now. Does that sound like freedom? Does that sound like the party of freedom to you?
The bill further defines a drag show as when a performer sings, lip syncs, dances, or otherwise performs before an audience of at least 2 persons for entertainment.
So literally anything.
For payment or not. And is intended to appeal to the prurient interest.
Oh wow, even if you're not paid, if you do this at all, which means you could technically show up. Like, this would kind of mean if you showed up to a fucking like karaoke night in drag, essentially, that you'd get you would be breaking the law.
It's destroying these kids' innocence. Entertainment, whether performed for payment or not. And is it
Wait, the bill further defines drag shows for 2 persons or entertainment form and is intended to appeal to the prurient?
Intended to appeal to the prurient interest. It's
what does that even give me words? Prurient. There we go. Having or encouraging excessive interest in sexual matters. So this is also like, how drag shows aren't sexual. I don't know if Tim knows this. They're not inherently sexual. Like, there's nothing sexual about wearing clothes. There's like a fashion interest, but okay, it's weird.
It's destroying these kids' innocence, Stibbefield told local station of
Naturally
News. They're no longer kids. They're seeing things they shouldn't be seeing.
Such as guys wearing dresses. Right.
An adult-oriented business cannot be located or take place on public property where a minor can view what the adult-oriented business is otherwise offering to the public that qualifies it as an adult-oriented business. It's prohibiting any drag queen performance in front of...
take place on public property. Okay, that's fine.
Where minors are present. Good. Bentley told the station. Megan Tolick, Director of Programs and Advocacy for NWA...
That is incredibly broad. It's prohibiting any drag queen performance in front of where minors are present. Minors can be present, especially in front of, like, that's incredibly broad. I mean, this is obviously a poorly written bill, and it's really only here to target drag and the LGBT community. Clearly,
told the station that the legislation could impact venues from outdoor theaters to pride parades, and argue that it would violate free speech. No, it wouldn't. You can't show porn to kids. That's illegal. Doesn't violate your free speech.
Fun fact: porn is not what drag is. Drag's not porn. Now you're trying to what's the word? You're trying to redefine drag as similar to porn, but that's not the same thing as it actually being porn. Like at the end of the day, like what Tim Pool is advocating for and what he is cheering on is the unfounded what's the word? I guess the unfounded rewriting of the definition of porn and sexually explicit content. This isn't it. Drag shows have never been considered sexual unless you're going to, and again, what we're talking about here is like not all drag shows are. Some can be, sure, that's fine. Some can be, but like movies, drag shows can be kind of whatever you want them to be. They're rather open performances. This is no different than screechy parents in the 80s and the 90s bitching and moaning and claiming that they're trying to protect the kids from violent video games. That's all this is. This is just gay panic, and it's just a bunch of this is just morality police. That's what this is. This is morality police that's based on their moral system and their own personal definition of morality and perspective on the world. Like, at the end of the, and they're, this is just a bold and blanket and very obvious attempt to just rewrite the laws, to just make them anti-queer. That's all this is. This isn't protecting kids. You haven't shown any harm that's done. You've just said, it creates harm. How does it do that? I don't know. It just does. It takes away their innocence. Oh, how does it do that? Because they shouldn't see guys in dresses. Really, why shouldn't they see guys in dresses? Because guys in dresses is bad. Really, why is it bad? It's bad because they're not supposed to. Really, why are they not supposed? You can run this a million times, but none of them have substantive answers for any of this. It's bad because it's bad. It's bad because I don't like it. It's bad because my Bible tells me. It's bad because my pastor told me. It's bad because I find it icky personally. Like, get over yourselves. Like, please, kindly, get the fuck over yourselves.
Can't put up porn on a big sign and wave it around. That's not free speech. Interestingly, though, some would argue it is. I find the debate to be very, very interesting, but we have a line. And that line is, some things are inappropriate and we accept them. But this is an interesting point, right? How can we assert that you cannot show images in public? That's free speech, right? What if you're a protester and your protest against government policy is specifically that porn should be readily available and legal, and you want to show it? I think nonviolent civil disobedience is
fun. So he keeps drawing this, like, what I find really disingenuous about this is Tim keeps talking about porn and keeps making this argument around people arguing for the right to display pornography openly. Nobody is arguing that. When Tim Pool says porn, we all know what he's talking about. Right? Like, we all know what he's talking about. Is anybody arguing for any of that? No, nobody is. At the end of the day, just because there are drag shows that are oriented to be family friendly does not mean that the same people who attend those show their kids porn. These are unrelated concepts, unrelated industries, unrelated wholesale. Like,
is good. And I think that protest that comes with breaking the law comes with you being arrested. And then I think we'll leave it up to the people to figure out if they agree with you or not. And I think overwhelmingly they will not. Thus,
essentially, they're just making being queer in any conception near kids illegal. That's what this is. This is just making queer people illegal.
There's challenges, I get it.
Won't work.
Where do we draw the line? Me? I have no problem asserting morals. I will not be manipulated by the left. They're going to say Tim Pool opposes free speech because he doesn't think that they should groom kids in public. Sorry. I believe in free speech in that you can come out and express your desire to have drag shows for kids. But to actually do the drag show for a kid is beyond just speaking your idea. I'm not going to pretend it's all easy. Quote, even having nothing to do with the youth zone that does include
this is
drag
also still this is just gay panic.
Has drag performers on it, and that would not be possible because it's an outdoor space that kids have access.
Isn't Tim supposed to be some kind of like leftist or something? I've heard this before. Like, isn't he supposed to be some former or something leftist, like, or a liberal? Like, come on.
Access to, Tulloch said.
I'm assuming people don't really believe that.
After being introduced on Monday, the bill will now head to the city, county, and local affairs committee. It is likely to pass due to the prominent majority Republicans hold in the state house and Senate. One thing I find truly fascinating is to say, this could mean no pride parades. Why? Is your pride parade engaging in sexually explicit activities?
If you've defined, let's see, one moment. Let's see. Can you go back? Wait, where are we at? We're at like 6 minutes. Go back up for a minute, Tim. I would look up this article so I could scroll through it, but I'm not giving his article. Let's see. Sponsors of the bill describe drag performances as when one or more performers exhibit a gender identity that is different from the performer's gender assigned at birth, using clothing, makeup, and or other accessories that are traditionally worn by members of and are meant to exaggerate the gender identity of the person's opposite sex. That is just a long-winded way of making not trans people illegal, but any outward expression of trans identity legal. If a trans person showed up to Pride in clothing, makeup, or accessories that express their identity that is in line with the gender of their choosing, that falls under this definition. Definitionally, that person, if there are children present at Pride, is breaking the law under this. Now, I don't even know what to say. Honest to God. This is as transphobic as I think it gets in the country so far. I have not read a bill that's as targeted as this is, in quite a while. We've had a lot of bills be filed. I don't think too many of them have passed. I don't actually know if this will pass. This is written very broadly. It's written it's written broadly from an enforcement standpoint, but it's also written very narrowly to kind of catch in a very specific group, because they're trying to tie laws that would apply to drag shows and extrapolate that out to define them as, any trans person, of any, because what is it? Doesn't it say otherwise performs before an audience of at least 2 persons? So then you have to define performance for entertainment, whether payment or not. So this is a dangerous law. This is actively fucking dangerous. This will lead to if not the arrest, because at the end of the day, queer people will see this law. What it will do more than anything is discourage queer people from fully existing in Arkansas society and in their communities. This law is designed specifically to target them, make their existence illegal, make their expression illegal, and all do it through this bullshit excuse of think of the children. Tim Pool doesn't give a shit about children. These fucking state senators or congresspeople or whatever don't give a shit about children. They are only using children to pass their own personal hate laws. That's it. That's all that's happening here. It's rather simple. In states like Arkansas, there is a very fervent and very what's the word I'm looking for? Interesting movement, group of people who want to redefine the law to essentially make it illegal to be queer in any kind of way. Now, they don't do this because they can point to any statistical, material harm. They don't do this because they can point to any, societal damage. If they did, then we'd probably have to talk about it more. I would have to come on here and refute studies saying that drag shows and trans people lead to more harm, lead to harm by their existence in our society. Luckily for me, I don't really have to do that because there really isn't. What we have are guys like Tim Pool, guys like Matt Walsh, who we've seen before. Which honestly, honest to God, Tim Pool shockingly more extremist on this issue than I would have ever expected. Usually he plays kind of the fence on a lot of this stuff. Granted, I don't watch a whole lot of Tim Pool, but clearly he has bought in. Either A, he kind of has found out that his audience really likes the anti-trans stuff, which is fine. Like, that's the audience he's grown. But in no way has he tried to educate them. And instead just continues his campaign to stoke their fear, to continue to have them be anxiety stricken based off of kind of nothing. Harm that they can't even identify. Harm that really nobody's been able to identify. And it's why when they rewrite the laws, the laws aren't being rewritten in any kind of interesting way. It's just, how do we define queer people, trans people, in a broad enough way as to make their existence illegal? It's not really, you're not really revealing anything that's we understand why murder is wrong, because we kind of see, like, as people die in a society, it creates anxiety, it creates depression, it creates societal decay. But notice you don't see any of that with this trans issue. You don't see any of that. It's just, oh, well, people think it's, I don't think it's okay. Why do you think it's okay? I'd like freedom. I like freedom. The thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to, like, click on one of these, like, things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.